To take their seats now. We're going to get started. Well, my name is Harry Ingram. I'm the Vice President of St. John's Storytelling, and I would like to welcome you all here. It's wonderful to see all these lovely faces. Also to the crowd in the Facebook line, welcome. You're very welcome here as well. Glad you come along for the ride. First of all, a bit of housekeeping, I guess. So we got some emergency exits, as you can see over here and here. There are gender-neutral washrooms just outside here. That's great. And what a festival it has been so far. Well, we've had Yuba Fury Tribute. We've had the Kamishi Boys, which is the Japanese storytelling meeting Newfoundland storytelling, which I think is absolutely fabulous. Songs and rhymes at the ships. At the ship, it was great. Coffee and culture at the rooms. Gathering of Voices, which I was unable to attend last night, but I hear it was absolutely amazing as well. Wonderful. Along with that, a couple of shows at the AC Hunter Library. Good stuff so far, and we're not done yet.
Yeah. And school shows.
Not at all. Yes, we have school shows as well. It will be mentioned. Yes. Okay, so there are many factors that allow this to be done. Our sponsors, Canadian Heritage, Government of Newfoundland, St. John's, City of St. John's, Canada Council for the Arts, PhoneMed, and Arts NL. Also, we have some wonderful partners. First of all, the LSPU Hall, who's been so kind and gracious to us, and great to work with. The Ship Pub, the Rooms, Cupid's Legacy Centre, Newfoundland Louder Folk Art Society, Newfoundland Public Libraries, and Perfect Day, who created our lovely poster and brochures. All from which all these people, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing here. So great big thanks to them. And don't forget, there's some merch outside on the table. If anybody like a fancy t-shirt for the festival, there's wonderful stuff out there. There's got a book out there too, I believe. Tonight, we have Tales from Near and Afar, and that's where tellers will transport you to another place and time. Not physically, so don't worry about that. Time track just hasn't been invented yet, that's all. As Trekkies, myself and Karen might like to think it will be one day. But anyway, we have a great lineup of tellers this evening, but I'm going to let your host tell you about that. And speaking of our host, Chukky eBay. Chukky is a dynamic storyteller, gifted folklorist, and compelling spoken word artist, whose work bridges the traditional and contemporary, with roots deeply embedded in the oral traditions and a voice attuned to rhythm and modern life. Chukky brings stories to life with a lyrical blend of authenticity, emotion, and insight. Chukky?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Good evening, everyone. I'm so excited to be here tonight. How you guys doing? We know we have an amazing festival, and it's been an amazing festival so far. They said they saved the best for the middle, and it's such a pleasure to be with you. We have some really incredible storytellers with us in the building this evening. Could we please make some noise for Sue House Sue? Can we make some noise for Catherine Wright? Can we make some noise for Joe Goudie? Can you say hello to me? Is that okay? It's an absolute pleasure. Stories from near and far. I come from this beautiful place in Nigeria. I was born into the Igbo nation, and we participate in this call and response storytelling tradition. So tonight with me, I want to tell you a bunch of stories, but I need you to respond with me. We're going to start super easy, and then we're going to build it up a little bit, get a bit more complicated as we go. Is that okay? Yeah. Let's start by this really easy one. I don't know if you know this guy called Fela Kuti. He's one of the most incredible Afrobeat musicians of all time. He does this thing where if he's having a good time, he says, yeah, yeah. So if you came to have a good time, let me hear you say, yeah, yeah. Let me hear you say, yeah, yeah. This first piece, it's a folk song from the Igbo nation. It's a really easy song. You only have one word to say. Your word is Udu. Udu. U-D-U. Udu. And this piece is about a young girl called Adanna, who had gone to the stream to fetch a pot of water, and on her way back home, the pot broke into pieces. And in the pot, she was carrying obviously water, and water is the most important thing in the world. Water is life. So imagine breaking a pot of water and losing all this in the world. Now, when you think about this piece, you might not be carrying a pot, but we're all carrying something that we've lost in the past. It could have been your car keys, it could have been a loved one, it could have been the Stanley Cup, whatever it is. So when you say Udu, I want you to think about this thing you have lost, and just sing it with me if that's okay. Can I get a yeah, yeah?
Yeah, yeah.
Nene, Udu mara putamo, Udu, Nene, Udu mara putamo, Nene, Udu mara putamo, Udu njiche miri adana la bawa, Udu njiche miri adana la bawa, Udu name, Udu namo, Udu name, Udu namo, Nene, Udu mwara putamo, Nene, Udu mwara putamo, Udu njicho miri adana la bawa, Udu njicho miri adana la bawa, Udu name, Udu namo, Udu name, Udu namo, Nenemo, Udu mwara putamo. The story says, my mother, my pot has fallen from the ground. My pot. Udu, thank you very much. We're going to just increase the difficulty threshold just by a little bit more. I know I'm not the best singer in the world, but I love to sing. My favorite thing about singing is actually when everybody sings along. And those are the lyrics of this next song. All right. So, feel free to mess up the words. Feel free to mispronounce them. This is 2 different languages. But let's have a good time. Stories from Afar. Are you with me? Yes. So with me, let me just say yeah, yeah. Yeah. My favorite thing about singing is when everybody sings along. My favorite thing about singing is my favorite song. Sing enyi, enyi, enyi mo, enyi mo, enyi mama, enyi mama, ofu enyi, ofu enyi, sing femi, femi, femi o, femi o, ife yemi, ife yemi, ife mi, ife mi. My favorite thing about singing is when everybody sings along. My favorite thing about singing is that singing is my favorite song. Sing enyi, enyi, enyi mo, enyi mo, enyi mama, enyi mama, ofu enyi, ofu enyi, sing femi, femi, femi yo, femi yo, ife yemi, ife yemi, ife mi, ife mi. My favorite thing about singing is when everyone sings along. My favorite thing about singing is my favorite song. Sing enyi, enyi, enyi mo, enyi mo, enyi mama, enyi mama, ofu enyi, ofu enyi, sing femi, femi, femi yo, femi yo, femi mama, femi mama, ife yemi. My favorite thing about singing is everyone sings along. My favorite thing about singing is singing my favorite song. Sing enyi, enyi, enyi mo, enyi mo, enyi mama, enyi mama, ofu enyi, ofu enyi, sing femi, femi, femi yo, femi yo. Yemi. Ifemi. Thank you very much. We love to tell a good story. We love a good song. We love a good call and response. And some wonder where these stories come from. Let me tell you the story about the origin of stories. This story does not take place once upon a time. Time was not yet born. The story does not take place in a place. The earth was so young it did not yet have a name. But in this story, there's a spider. In these stories, there's always a spider. And this spider is not the spider you know. Many storytellers, many folklorists in this room know of this spider called Kweku Anansi, of the old Ghanaian folklore. But this story takes place years and years and years before Kweku Anansi was born. This story is about a spider called Aso. And Aso lived with her 7 wives and 77 sons at the beginning of time. And Aso and her wives would gather every season and share stories. And Aso and her sons would gather every season and share stories. And she would take these stories and string them into beautiful balls of web. And the stories were so good, so sweet, and so delicious, even the sun will come and tell Aso his stories. And the rain will come and tell Aso his stories. And the Arctic breeze will come, and the mountains will come, and all of them give Aso their stories. And Aso will weave these stories into beautiful balls of yarn. In one season, the rain did not come as it was supposed to. So Aso sent her 2 oldest sons, Kweku and Kwame, to go up to heaven to ask God where the rain has come. But in doing so, Aso put 2 beautiful stories on the backs of her sons, and they spun a web so large that it reached the sky. They crawled up, and when they got to the heavens, God was not there. Instead, they saw this creature, strange creature they had never seen before, with 5 fingers and 10 fingers and 10 toes. And this creature spoke to Kweku and Kwame and asked them what they were doing in the sky. And Kweku and Kwame, as dutiful, obedient sons who had never seen these creatures before, told them they came looking for God, that they had a story to give God to send out the rains in its season. And these creatures introduced themselves as the people. And the people asked Kweku and Kwame, having never ever in their life witnessed a story before, asked what a story was. The story thing sounds so interesting. And Kweku and Kwame told the people that a story is a way for you to live a life that you have never lived before. So the people asked for a story. And Kweku and his brother gave the people the story. And then the people asked for more. And Kweku and Kwame gave the people more and more and more and more until they were out of stories. And the boys, having not found God, were prepared to go back to the ground and tell their mother about the news. But the people did not allow the boys to return home because the story they had tasted was so sweet. So they kept the younger brother back and told the other brother to go back home and bring more stories. And when they bring more stories, they will let the younger brother go in return. And the dutiful older brother did the same thing. He crawled down from the sky, went to his mother, and told his mother all he had seen. And the mother, wanting to get her son back, gave the boys more stories. She sent all her sons to the sky with stories in their back. And one by one, they climbed up this lovely ladder to the sky and gave the people their stories. And the people, having loved this story so much, got this insatiable tale for stories. They wanted more and more and more. So they stopped all her sons from returning. And they took all their stories until Aso was out of stories and out of sons. So Aso, wanting to get her sons back, spun a web that went up the way to the sky. And when she saw the people, she demanded her sons. And the people told her that, of course, we were always going to send your sons back. When you go home, spin a web so large that it covers the world and wait by it. And we will throw your sons back to the earth one by one. And they gave her a solemn word. And Aso returned down to the earth. She spun a web so large that it covered the entire earth. And as the people said, she waited. She waited for her sons to come back into the world. And one night, when she was spinning a web by her brides, she felt a tingle in her web. And she went back to see who had fallen, looking for her sons. But they were nowhere to be found. Instead, she saw the people. They escaped from the earth. They escaped from the sky and used her web to catch their fall. One by one, the people came down from the sky looking for more stories. They went into her house, tore open the wombs of her wives, looking for more stories. They took the tongue from their lips and put it in theirs. And this is why we call language mother's tongue, looking for more and more and more stories. But there were no more stories to be seen. And the people fled to all the corners of the earth, looking for more stories, gathering around bonfires, open mics, finding a story that was as true and precious as the first stories Kwame and Kweku spun for them. Aso kept looking. She took the legs of her broken wives and put them around her body. This way, she would remember them forever. And this is why the spider has 8 legs. And she ran everywhere she could, spinning a web, spinning a web, spinning a web, waiting for her sons to fall down from the sky. And many will say this is a folk tale. Many will say this is a thing that happened in a fairy tale dream. But are you not the people? And have you not gathered for a story? So let me give you a story. But remember, do me this one small favor. And I promise you, I will give you your story if you ask for it. If you ever see a spider spinning its web, just let it be. Because this is Aso waiting for her sons to return from the sky. Thank you. Stories from near and far, St. John's Festival. We have a good time for you tonight. If you're ready for the next artist, let me hear you say yeah, yeah. Oh man, I'm so excited for this incredible artist. Her name is Sue Haoshi. She's a Taiwanese Townie and Newfoundlander by choice. By day, she's a business manager in the construction industry. By night, she's a creative soul, exploring her heritage, identity, and the world through dance, writing, and storytelling. Sue Hao is very happy to return to St. John's Storytelling Festival as a teller and a host, and hope you can take a little magic home with you. Please give her a big, big, big St. John's Storytelling welcome. Welcome to the stage, Sue Hao.
That is the definition of a tough act to follow, but I'll do my best. I am now very, very pleased, having heard a story from Chukky, that my children like to save our front and back porch spiders. They return every season. One's always named Dave, the other one's always named Charlotte. So, yeah, we supply food for them all season. So I'm here to bring a little folktale that's inspired by part in history and a lot by my culture. And before I start, I wanted to ask, is there any gardeners among us? Oh, well, a couple of hands. Why do you garden? Is it flowers? Is it fruits? Is it vegetables? Veggies. Okay. Yeah.
And some flowers.
Excellent. So for aesthetics, for nutrition, for relaxing, lots of purposes, right?
Not so much relaxing.
Okay. Yeah.
But I do love to look at a lovely garden.
Excellent. I heard sometimes it's costly depending on what you like to put in your garden. So.
Yes.
All right. So I guess we can agree that gardens are places where it's refuge. It could be relaxing. It could be interesting or challenging. And sometimes they are places where legends are born. So let me take you back to one such garden back about 1,000 years ago now in the Tang Dynasty in what is now modern-day China, where Empress Wu presided as the single female ruler in the thousands of history. And she was known as Her Great Holiness, Heaven's Chosen Divine Dragon. And she was holding court one day in a particularly frigid winter morning when she rose. Head to the temple, you know there's trouble coming. Jen, tired of all this talk of statehood. She dismissed the court with a shrug of her shoulder, tilt of her chin. We will speak no more of governance today. Jen, tired of these talk of statehood. A favored courtier approached her, sensing the tension in the air, and said, "My empress, the snow is freshly fallen. There is beauty, and your favorite peach wine has just been brought to the imperial kitchen. Perhaps we might consider relocating ourselves into the garden for a little repast." "Ah, it is so, it is so. What a brilliant suggestion." Her Great Holiness stood and said, "To the gardens, we shall feast." So, I've always been personally incredibly impressed by the logistics involved in making a queen, king, or an empress happy. So, off goes the folks in the imperial kitchen, preparing the most amazing feast of dry fruits, meats, fish, vegetables, anything you could find that us normal peasants wouldn't have access to in the bleak of midwinter. But within the quarter of an hour that took her Great Holiness to stand with her inner circles, get to the imperial gardens, a gazebo had been set up with a silk canopy. There's musicians playing, there are artists already painting, beautiful incense, just waiting for her to sit down to this wonderful feast. And her favorite peach wine, as promised by her favorite courtier. And about half an hour into this festivity, she picks up her wine. Ah, fine feast, fine food, excellent music. What a fantastic idea. And then immediately her mood sours. Were this the height of spring of summer, the ponds would be alive with lilies and lotuses. Here irises, there begonias, peach quince and hibiscus. And here we are in the bleak of midwinter, and Jen, in all my might, must makeshift merry with this mockery of spring. What do you do when an empress is not happy? And then suddenly, while the court is trying to figure out what they could say to change her mood, what is that? And everyone comes to a standstill, watching her jade smooth hand rising in the air, twirling, thinking, this scent, floral. It's not the incense, not from any of the foods. Something blooms in the garden and Jen intends to find it. And up she goes with her 12 layers of clothes and the entire court following her, chasing, making a mad dash through the corridors. You must imagine how funny this is. You and I have probably 2-3 layers of clothes at most. She's got 12. So bouquets that are about 13 feet long. So everyone's hiking up their 7 layers of skirts, running after the empress, who, despite the age years, in this enthusiastic moment of adventure, looking so young and happy, like the young concubine she once was. So what blooms in the bleak of midwinter? Anyone know?
Love.
Love. Love does. So it does. But in this particular story, it is a small forest of winter plum. So in the spring and summer, when all the rest of the flowers are blooming, the plum is a very unassuming looking plant. It looks like it's just a branch with trees and leaves and stuff like that. But in the bleak of midwinter, where our story takes place, against the backdrop of freshly fallen snow of pure white, the branches are dark, straight, dotted with scarlet plums, like a painting, just for her Great Holiness. She is pleased. She is very pleased. She approaches the plum. Ah, my dear plum, you have shown perseverance in blooming in the midwinter for our pleasure. For this, I applaud you. Raises her hand, gestures to the court. The plum has shown us loyalty and devotion in pleasing us this evening, and I declare her the royal consort for the day.
Wow.
Bring the wine, bring the food, we dine at her pleasure. So up the court comes, moving the Very, very mobile feast and music and all the entertainment once again, setting up a beautiful silk canopy over the Empress and the forest for her enjoyment. And of course, along comes the many, many, many cups of peach wine that she was enjoying. So about another hour passes, and a young courtier, eager to make his name, approaches the Empress. Your divine holiness, heaven's chosen divine dragon, we see today the true reach of your power, for you command the nature and make the flowers bloom against the seasons. If she was in her usual state of mind, Empress probably would have seen this as the not very subtle flattery that it is intended to be. However, today she has down many, 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 and just one more many of cups of her favorite wine. She's feeling a little more, well, holy than usual. It is so. It is so. Jen has changed the season, commanded a flower to bloom against nature's law. Jen is indeed powerful, and the court goes silent. For even as heaven's chosen divine dragon, surely that is not something you say to speak against the gods of nature. But she will not be dissuaded. Bring ink, bring parchment. Jen has a declaration to make. And that afternoon, the courtiers were tasked with delivering a summons to all the flowers in the interior garden. Jen, pray that you do not hibernate in the cold. Wake, wake, quick, as those spring breeze summons you. So that night in the Imperial Garden, there was an uproar of a silent to us mortal years. Oh, what shall we do? What shall we do? The flower fairy of the lotus is crying her eyes out next to her pond. Her great holiness has commanded us to bloom. Surely we must do so. The fairy of begonia is crying next to her plot. I understand what you mean, and surely her great holiness has commanded us to do so, but it is against the laws of nature, it is against time. What is it that we shall do? So every flower fairy has put in her 2 cents, trying to get the conversation going, trying to figure out what exactly should they do together. And finally, it came down to the flower fairy for the peony. And the peony says, we do not bloom. We are the guardians of the season. It is up to us to uphold the laws of nature, regardless of what the Empress tells us. We do not bloom. So the discussion continues late into the night, though again, silent to the mortal ears. So the next morning, the Empress wakes with quite the headache. And as she's nursing her, she says, Jen has made a mockery of ourselves, as she slowly recalled what she had declared the evening before. People shall think we are fools. People shall think we are fools. And in her lament, she had not noticed how excited her handmaiden looked. So as she was getting dressed, she could tell the young girl was twisting her fingers, trying to get her attention. What is it, my child? Your frivolity irritates us this morning. And she says, oh, my Empress, your great holiness, heaven's chosen divine dragon, you must come see. So with that enthusiasm, indulging the child, her great holiness stands and asks, what precisely are you referring to? We must to the gardens, your holiness. So out of her chamber she comes, and in every corridor she passes through, the whole court lined on both sides, bowing in reverence. Not an unusual sight, but she senses there's a vibrancy in the energy and anticipation this particular morning. And off she goes to the gardens. And what do you think she sees? The ponds are alive with lotuses and lilies. Here irises, there begonias, peach, quince, and hibiscus. The garden had come alive overnight, as her great holiness has commanded. She turns in awe of what she had accomplished, and behind her the whole court bows and repeats, Your great holiness, heaven's chosen divine dragon, we bow in your power, in reverence to your great this over nature and the laws and the gods. And then, in her joy, she notices one singular bleak corner. And it was the peony. So with the whole garden in flush, peony is the only plant that had not bloomed, would not answer the Empress's call. Her joy was equally met by her outrage. Jen has cared for peony since we were but a young concubine, and this is how our kindness is repaid, she declares. I hereby banish peony from the city of Chang'an, never to return. Now, doesn't that sound silly?
Yeah.
How would you banish a plant? But when you have ruled for decades as her great holiness, heaven's chosen divine dragon with the might of the imperial army at your beck and call, what is impossible? They say it took 49 days for every peony plant to be uprooted from the city of Chang'an. They say it took another 49 days for all the surviving plants to make it to the southern city of Loyang, where the people there cared for the flowers, grew it to its many varieties, and spread it throughout the then known world and through history, to the point that I imagine a few of us here in the audience have peonies in our gardens. And she blooms in the summer and spring when she is in her season. They say, to this day, that no peonies bloom on the land where the imperial garden of Chang'an once stood.
Wow. Make some noise, make some noise, make some noise. You may also address me as Her Royal Majesty Imperial Dragon. What is the full title?
Great holiness.
Great Holiness,
Heaven's chosen.
Heaven's Chosen,
Divine dragon.
Divine Dragon. You can call me that anytime, an answer. May you always bloom in your season. That was such a beautiful story. Give her one more round of applause. The next storyteller that we're about to welcome to the stage, and I've seen this teller perform multiple times now, and she's one of my absolute favorites, is Catherine Wright. She is a multi-arts practitioner, an arts educator, based here in St. John's and Port Kirwan, Newfoundland. A versatile performer, Catherine has presented folk and fairy tales, personal narratives, ballads, recitations, and original tales to a broad range of ages from preschoolers to seniors, at schools, festivals, theaters, galleries, outdoor venues, and online in her over 35 years of performance experience. Make some noise for that. We have a veteran with us today. Her most recent show, Shrouds and Stays, The Ballad of Jane Wright, is an ancestral tale of shipwreck interweaving storytelling, songs, and movement. Catherine is a past president of St. John's Storytelling and current provincial representative for Storytellers of Canada. Make some noise as we introduce Catherine Wright to the stage. Keep it going all the way to the stage.
Wow. That's quite the introduction. I was asked if I would do some excerpts tonight from my show, Shrouds and Stays, The Ballad of Jane Wright. And I know there are people here who've probably seen it, and I'm just going to offer a few little offerings. This show is, it sort of ties in with the theme of tales from near and afar in a couple of ways. First of all, the story takes place many years ago, so far away in time and also in place. There was a shipwreck that took place in 1891 off the coast of Cornwall in the UK. But I am the I'm the descendant of the people that were shipwrecked. And I live here, and this story has become mine as well. And so in that way, it is a near a near to me story. So it's definitely fits with the theme. I'll start like this. Whisper, whisper. I hear a whisper from over the seas. It ripples out and speaks to me. The past is here. It is not gone. The whisper ripples on and on. My great-great-grandmother, Jane McIntosh, was born in 1849 in Paisley in Scotland. She married David Wright, who was also from Scotland. And they had 5 sons together, and then a daughter who died at the age of 5. In 1890, my great-great-grandmother, who was the only woman in her family who had learned to read and write, she went on a voyage with her husband. And David was the captain of the ship, the Bay of Panama. And they sailed across the sea to New York and then on to Calcutta, India, to collect jute to take back to Scotland, to Dundee, for the textile industries. And I have a letter here that she wrote from the ship while she was there. And I'm just going to read a little bit that's pertinent to the next bit that I'm going to tell you. But you can see her handwriting here. And it says Calcutta, September 8th, 1890, ship Bay of Panama. So, dear David, she's writing to her second oldest son, who would have been my great uncle. We made a fine run, just 96 days. We beat all the ships. And this ship was built in Belfast by the company Harland and Wolff that would later build the Titanic. Okay, and we all know how that story ends. It had 4 masts. It was square-sailed, beautiful ship. At the time, it was considered the most beautiful seaworthy ship on the ocean. So 96 days sounds like a lot now, doesn't it, to go across the ocean? But at that time, that was considered very quick. Your father sends his love to all, and we were pleased to hear your aunt had got a little baby girl, and I hope she is a fine, fat baby. Give Johnny and Rafi a kiss for me. Those are her nephews. Ask Johnny if he would like a monkey. I'm going to bring one for Willie. So if your Aunt Agnes would like, I will bring one for John. And Willie was her youngest son, Jane's youngest son. I will not say any more at present, hoping to get a letter from you this mail. Your loving father and mother, Jane Wright. So on the journey back, we know there was indeed a monkey on board. And so I'm going to do a little bit to do with the monkey. I'm going to put this down. And there was only one monkey on board. So I imagine Aunt Agnes being asked, could Johnny have a monkey? A monkey! A monkey! Johnny, don't even start. You're not having a monkey. What do you think? Don't I have enough to be doing? I'm chasing after the lot of you, cleaning and cooking up half the night with my new baby. A monkey! Bringing its filth and swinging from the rafters full of fleas and whatnot. No, Johnny, you're not having a monkey, and that's final. Whereas Willie, her youngest son, would be so excited. Mother's bringing me a monkey because I am her youngest son. Not for my brothers or any of the others, My monkey will be so much fun. Mother's bringing me a monkey to be whatever. He'll be so quick to learn every trick. With monkey, I will never feel alone. So when they set sail in November in 1890. And it's a long, long voyage, all the way back around the Cape of Good Hope, all the way up and through the English Channel. And as they went, the weather got progressively worse. Whereas the outward journey had been very smooth sailing, now things were not good. And I mentioned this monkey, and he was actually quite a large monkey, likely to have been a rhesus macaque. So not those little tiny ones you think of, but a good sized, bulky monkey. I think of the poor monkey who did not sign up for this voyage. To me, it seems like kind of the tragic little hero of this story. In Calcutta market, I was sold to a woman, bright and bold. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. She said she'd take me to her son. She said we'd have a lot of fun. But I don't want to go to sea. Please, put me back in a tree. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. In the wild, monkeys troop. In a cage, monkey droops. Monkey taken from the shore will see his family nevermore. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. On the deck in gentle seas, my spirits lift, my worries ease. She feeds me tidbits, laughs and plays, tells me things will be okay. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. Ship sways, dips and swells. Monkey isn't feeling well. Then begins to moan and grow. Please don't leave me all alone. To Dundee is an endless trip when caged inside a sailing ship. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. Well, the trip would progress. And just as they're coming almost there, just off the coast of Cornwall, the worst storm in 200 years would sweep in. They were surrounded by blizzard. They could not see the land. They didn't know how far they were. Night came on. And this poor monkey was down in the hold, all alone. The lanterns have gone out. It is dark. Splatter, clatter, cries I hear. What's the matter? Death, I fear. Whipping wind and ripping sails, knuckles white, gripping rails. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. From the tempest, no escape. Ship shivers, shudders, scrapes. Topsy-turvy, I am flung. Seeping water. Freezing. Numb. Scritchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy. Monkey days are done. They'll find me lying in the hold. Body lifeless, rigid, cold. Scratchy, scratchy, itchy, patchy, monkey days are done. You say monkey see, monkey do. but I don't want to be like you. That's the monkey. So when I created this piece, the central character is my great-great-grandmother, and she really interested me because she was a woman, obviously, who had a draw to the ocean. And at a time when women didn't often leave their children behind and go on adventures. And they had 5 children. And so it was kind of like a big thing, you know, with a tragic ending, because she and her husband were swept into the sea during the wreck. This is the really abbreviated version, right? And so they both drowned. I also tell the story from other points of view. So like you just heard from the monkey's point of view. And I think right now I'm just going to do the son, the oldest son, who ended up being my great-grandfather. His name was Archibald. And in that letter there, it mentions that she mentions that she hasn't heard from him in a long time, and she's not happy with him because he hasn't been writing. And so I imagine after their death, what that must have been like, hearing the news. And then we know that he tried to get to the funeral in time. She was buried in the churchyard of a very, very old stone church in Cornwall at a place called St. Keverne. And so I imagine him trying to get there, and the train was bogged down in the snow, and by the time he got there it was too late. But there he stands in the churchyard, and the snow is around, mixed with the earth from the fresh grave, and it would be bitingly cold still, maybe a drip on his nose. With hat in hand, at your grave I stand. And no amount of tears can allay my fears, for now I must be a man. Neither father nor mother, for my brothers I'll care. Your loss is the cross that I must bear. Too soon, in the grave you lie. Birds hush their singing, no time for goodbye. Man and beast perished in fury's blow, lives rent asunder by ice and snow. The strength of my grief, the storm should abate, but nature proved stronger. I come too late. Too soon, in the grave you lie. Birds hush their singing, no time for goodbye. Where earth lies frozen, at your grave I stand, my heart on my sleeve, my hat in my hand. Archie would keep his promise to look after his brothers, and he married his first cousin Margaret as a way to do that. And I'm not going to sing the whole of the proposal song, but I'll just sing her part. She was 7 or 8 years older than him, and so at the time She would have been at least in her mid-20s, so kind of into that spinster stretch, you know. And she says, and there's a chorus that goes, and the wheel turns round and round, and that references a water wheel that's on the grounds at a farm in Cornwall, which I saw the first time I was there, and it was still turning. It was from that time period, and I just like the idea of time moving forward and things keep going. Archie, I will marry you, I will be your wife, help you in your time of need, sorrow and of strife. We grew up as cousins, I've known you all your life. Yes, Archie, I will marry you, I will be your wife, and the wheel turns round and round. I'm sure romance can blossom if we give our love a chance. We'll light up all the lanterns, through the kitchen we will dance. Each day will be a blessing, we'll bar sorrow from the door. And with hope and tenderness, we'll learn to live once more, and the wheel turns round and round. Well, they would go on and have children of their own, 2 boys and 2 girls. And in 1912, they moved from England to Canada. And they settled in Toronto. But in 1914, we all know what happened. War broke out. And as soon as the eldest son was old enough, he enlisted. And his name was also Archie for his father. And when he enlisted, his father enlisted with him in the same battalion of pioneers. And in fact, his father lied and said that his birth was 5 years later in order that he was able to go with his son. And of course, his son at that time was about the same age that he had been when he lost his parents. And I can only imagine how important it was to him to feel that he was there and that they were there together. They shipped out, and in 1916, they both fought at the Battle of the Somme side by side. And it was there that the older Archie died. We don't know where he's buried, but he's commemorated on the Vimy monument. And I think of Margaret as an older lady singing. How the years have marched on by, our children have all grown. They've left the nest to live their lives with children of their own. And like so many mothers, I find myself alone. For Archie died at the Somme, never to come home. And the wheel turns round and round. But I still remember when he said to me, Margaret, will you marry me? Will you be my wife? Will you help me in my time of need, of sorrow, and of strife? We grew up as cousins. I've known you all my life. Now, Margaret, will you marry me? Will you be my wife? Yes, Archie, I will marry you. I will be your wife. And the wheel turns round and round. More later.
Let's keep it going, keep it going, keep it going. So special. We have one last storyteller for this session, then we'll take a quick 10-minute break, and then we'll be back. But you all have been an amazing audience, so forgive yourself a round of applause, please. How did I say you all look so beautiful this evening? So incredible. The last storyteller we are pleased to have with us, a veteran, Goudie. He was born at Mud Lake, Labrador in 1939, the son of James and Elizabeth Goudie. The family moved to Happy Valley, Goose Bay in 1943. In 1975, Joe was elected as MHA for, I don't know how to pronounce this, please correct me, Naskapi, thank you very much. In 1975, he was elected as MHA for Naskapi District in Central Labrador. And during this time, he became the first Indigenous minister to serve on the Executive Council until 1985. He then went on to work in the tourism development in Labrador and finally finished his working career as Native Liaison Officer with 5 Wing Goose Bay in 1996. Joe went on to retrain, learning how to build cedar and canvas and canoes. He is now in the final stage of constructing an 18-foot canoe for 2 of his friends, the final canoe, amongst many other things. Joe was a hunter and a trapper. Joe also served as honorary colonel for 5 Wing Goose Bay. He holds the Monarch's Medal for over 50 years of volunteer work, which was presented to him by the Governor General of Canada several years ago. He was and still is involved in many other community-oriented projects, which culminated in his admittance to the Order of Newfoundland and Labrador recently. We have a legend with us in the building today. Please make some noise. Give a big, big, big storytelling welcome for Joe Goudie.
Thank you very much. And I had to make one personal comment before I get into it. This is the first time I've ever seen any person, male or female, who's got to hold this thing straight up instead of on an angle. I've never seen anyone so big in my life. You're doing a great job. I've been telling stories here on this trip for a couple of days now. And during one of the presentations somewhere, someone said, you're talking about the trappers, because that's the society in which I grew up, born into it, grew up in it. But what about the women? What did they do? Well, let me give you a little brief description, because Mother's name is fairly well known in this province, or at least it was. She wrote a book back in the 70s called Woman of Labrador, which tells her story and her intent. She wasn't writing a book, is what she said to us. She was just making some notes. Well, those notes turned out to be 28 scribblers full of black lead pencil writing. And through the cousin and another person who was working on his doctorate, I think, they convinced her to have the manuscript published. And out comes the book in which she talks about what a woman had to do while her man was away on the tramp ground. And that was either for 4 months or 6 months of the year. And you have a family, and possibly even expecting more. And you have to care for everybody. You're the one who's in charge. You're the one who cooks the meals, who makes the clothes, who harvests the berries and the trout and the salmon, and cuts the fire or splits the firewood, keeps the fire going in the home, to cook, to keep it warm, to give the kids a bath, I don't know, once a week, or whatever it works out to be. All of this, and it's done every day of the year. And I remember we moved to Happy Valley from Mud Lake in 1943. Now, when I was a kid growing up in the family, mother and father never spent any great amount of time talking directly to me about what they had to do as moms and dads. but you pick up the information here and there in other ways. And I remember she used to say that she finally got her house of dreams, I think is what she called it. That's the house that we lived in Happy Valley after we moved there. It was a large home. I can't remember how many rooms now, but enough for pretty much the whole family, who was left. Most of the girls had married and had their own homes. But the men and the boys were at home. And someone said, why did you call it your house of dreams? Well, they had traveled a lot. Dad was the youngest son and had to find his trap line somewhere. Turns out he was about 300 miles from home. And I'm going to tell you a story about that in just a minute. But that's how far he had to go to earn a living, if you will. His commute to work, believe it or not, was 5 weeks paddling the canoe before he started work. So it was a bit of a unique lifestyle compared to what we had today. But I said, Mom, why did you call it your house of dreams? She said, I always wanted a house big enough for the whole family to be together. And that's what she got. And something that simple, not insignificant, but simple, made her the happiest woman that she was. Anyway, that was wrong. Thank you on her behalf. And just so you know, she passed away in 1982 at 80 years of age in a room in the senior citizen, I guess long-term care is what they call it now, that she had furnished with revenue from her book. So even right to the end, she was still taking care of herself. I'm the last speaker for the first session. Okay, well, I'll get to it. There wasn't always much work available back in the summers in the part of Labrador where I grew up. I mean, there was a Hudson Bay company if you were fortunate enough to be hired to do something or other, or the rental mission at the hospital, or if you had a commercial salmon license, and there were only half a dozen or so of those because there were only half a dozen or so places where you could earn a living from catching salmon. So one summer, Father used to build canoes, and maybe that's where I got the desire to build canoes. I don't know, I can't explain it, it just happened. But he didn't have any orders one summer, so they had to come up with a make-work project. And my oldest brother, Horace, was 17 then. Horace lived to be 94 and passed away just a few years ago. Anyway, what Father and Horace decided they should do to get enough money to see them through outfitting for the trap line and for Mother and the family at home to live at the same time was to go into the country and collect 10 canoes for the trappers who had to leave them. They couldn't get them out in the winter. And they would charge them $20 a canoe to bring them out to them. Well, I know that doesn't sound like very much money, but back then, one example, flour was a cent a pound. So for $1.96, you got 196 pounds of flour. And the rest you harvested from the land. So it was a different lifestyle than what we're used to today. Anyway, they found 10 trappers who agreed to pay the $20. They got things together, got in the canoe, and paddled about 250 miles up what's now called the Churchill River the Grand River then, a lot of rapids, which can be fun running, but hard work going up through. They got to the big hill portage at what's now the town of Churchill Falls. And the reason we called it the big hill portage, they were just getting to what we call the height of land. They had a 1 mile walk to get up over. But in that 1 mile, they climbed 800 feet straight up. And you gotta carry 4 to 6 months supplies up over that, but they didn't, because they were only quickly going in and coming out again. But that's what the original trappers used to have to do. And once you got to the top, you had another 30-mile walk to get to the next body of water. So, yeah, that was fun, I guess. Anyway, I never ever had to do that. Well, I've come down the river about 30 times, and I know how much fun that is. But the first canoe that they picked up was just into the large body of water, now called, I think, well, it was Flower Lake then, I think it's all called Lobstick Lake now, or Smallwood Reservoir, or Michikamel is what we used to call it. And this is in August month. The birds, the migrating birds are molting. They've lost their flight feathers. And this particular morning, they came to a bunch of geese, Canada geese, on the water. It was the only food they had, other than flour and a bit of rice, was what they harvested from the land. And Horace had cracked the necks of 3 geese. That would see them through quite a few number of days. But as they were paddling to the island to get the first canoe, there was smoke coming out. That's a bit unusual in August month, 300 miles from home. So they didn't know what was going on. Anyway, they pulled in. And when they got ashore, there was a tent set up, and there was an Innu man and his wife who was really pregnant, and their son, who was close to Horace's age, maybe 16, 17, 15 or something like that. And they said, well, why are you here? This is unusual. And what the man said, they were from Sept-Îles, Quebec. The reservation was called Malioten. And the previous fall, September, a whole bunch of them had decided that they were going to spend the winter in the country up on the height of land. And about a week or 10 days before they were going to leave, a young fellow from the village came running to the house one evening, and he said, so-and-so has been shot. I don't know the man's name, but this is a true story. There had been a murder in the village, and the police are looking for you. This is what he said to the man. Well, fright, of course, was the first reaction, I guess. And what they had arranged before this incident was that everyone would get together, put together their kit for the winter, food and clothing and everything else, take off into the country. Well, they couldn't wait now. He didn't do anything, so why should I be concerned about the police? I gotta get out of it. So whatever they could collect in an hour, they threw into a canoe, food, clothing, and left. The intent being to meet up with their friends in about 2 weeks at a certain location. Well, apparently they got into the country all right, but somehow they missed each other. And for the full winter, up until August, when Horace and Dad were there, they were living using a piece of fish net about 12 feet long whatever they could catch, and drinking water. That was it. And this lady is expecting in weeks or days, I don't know what it was, but it was soon. Well, so Horace and Dad, they were pretty much at the end of their trip going in. Whatever food they had, they gave to them. And gave them 2 geese. And apparently the young fellow wanted the 3rd one. But Horace said, no, you're not getting that one. We got to eat too. And they apparently lived off of berries that they harvested, blueberries, raspberries, and I don't know what other kind, but, and Horace said they didn't even really feel hungry. Now, he carried 30 canoes, 10 canoes, 30 miles, back to go down into the river valley, and Dad carried all of the camping equipment and all of that. So they were on that Big Hill Portage for about a week before they had everything done. And Horace happened to have the same kind of a rifle that the Indian man had, but he was out of ammunition, didn't have any bullets. So Horace had 10 shells. He gave him 7 and kept 3 for going home. And then they left. Well, they got out to the river proper. If you've seen anything on the news about the Churchill hydro development, you see the tail race tunnel where the water comes out. About 400 feet from that is where they came down over the hill. Anyway, they made a raft out of the canoe, the 10 canoes. 4 of them mouth up with a large stick tied onto it. 3 more on top, upside down, and then 2 on top of that, and a 16-foot, the 10th one, tied on a rope on the end. And I still have difficulty, because I paddled that river 30 trips coming down. And somehow, when they got in the water, in the canoe, because they were paddling their own, of course, they made it back to Mud Lake, which would be about 260, 270 miles in 5 days.
Wow.
Now, on the water before daylight, off the water after dark. So they probably slept 4 or 5 hours a night. But they had to do that because then they had to get back in the country again and trap for the next 4 months. So that was the make work project. Maybe I should use that sometime, talking to government officials about make work projects. Anyway, so they got home, and only a couple of weeks is all they had to re-outfit. Mother had been busy producing the clothing they needed and getting food items ready and that kind of stuff, while at the same time raising a family. Anyway, they left to go back in the country. And this is the first time that Horace, as a 17-year-old, because his first trip for 2 weeks on the trap line when he was 10 years old. But I told that story already, so I'll leave that part. But anyway, they got back into the country, and Horace was given the North Portage. The way it was set up, the cabin was on a river, the Mackenzie River in this case, which flowed into the Michikamau Lake. And they had traps on the river about 8 to 10 miles. But they had a north path where they went for 2 days, and the south path, same thing, 2 days. So Horace had the north path. He was on his own. He'd see Dad, maybe once a month or 3 weeks, just to get together overnight on Saturday and compare notes and see how things were going, and they were gonna end. Anyway, he thought that was the end of the story, but it wasn't. Sometime during the winters, the trapping season didn't start till the 15th of October. And sometime during that winter, probably December, Horace was in his little cabin one night. They called it a tilt. It was a cabin small enough, it was wide enough to equal the person's height and 7 feet long. And that's what they lived in for that longer period of time. Anyway, Horace was home after dark. He had, didn't have any fur to skin that night, so he would cook his supper. And while he was cooking, they didn't have a door in those little cabins, they had a piece of canvas hung down, that was it. So he rolled the canvas up and lit his pipe. A cup of tea and the pipe is almost as good as a meal, so at least that's what it feels like. Anyway, he was sitting in the doorway, dark outside, candle lit in the cabin, and he heard click, click, click. Someone coming on snowshoes. Sounds almost like a caribou. When a caribou walks, it's click, click, click. And his first thought was, this is good, I could use that. But as it turned out, it was 3 young men, Indian men, carrying heavy loads, you could see that. And they came to the cabin, put down the loads they had on their back. And he said, come in, the kettle is boiled, have a cup of tea, have a lunch, and no room to spend the night, only room for one bunk, and he was using that one. But anyway, they came in, poured up their tea, and they wanted to be sure. Says, they called them Little Kettle. And he didn't know what they were talking about. And he said, why are you calling me that? Well, apparently a couple of years before that, Father had bought a kettle from Nelson Bay Company. And it was made of copper with a white base and a long spout. And the Indians came across them one day, boiling the kettle indoors. And they found the kettle so funny, they called Dad Big Kettle and Horace Little Kettle. That's where that came from. And so you're a little kettle, yep, that's me. We have a gift for you from, they mentioned the guy's name, I don't know what it was. The person that they had helped that summer in August. And it was caribou meat. And the trappers never bothered much with the caribou, actually, because it was such a large animal. For one person, half of it would be spoiled before you had it consumed. There was no way to preserve it, unless it was in the winter and it was cold. But anyway, well, he thanked them for that, and he said, what happened anyway? Because the lady was pregnant, and this man was supposedly killed someone back in Malioten. And they said, false alarm. Police wanted to talk to him, not to arrest him, talk to him. The lady had a healthy baby. And with the 7 bullets that Horace gave him for his rifle, he didn't use them on the island, there were no caribou there. But he knew a place on the mainland where there might be caribou. They talk in the different bands that were living on the country indicated that that place was a pretty good place for caribou. So he and his son got aboard the canoe, paddled, it was only a few hundred yards to get to the land. And they had about a 10-15 minute walk in through the woods to get to the marshes. And when they came out to the woods to the marsh, caribou everywhere. At one point, not then, but at one point, we had 900,000 caribou. The only bigger herd in the world were the wildebeest of Africa. Anyway, there weren't that many there, but there were lots of them. And he took his time. He had the 7 bullets in the gun. He knocked them 2 the first shot and 6 more as they ran. So he caribou. And I don't know how long that took. Didn't take very long. Maybe a minute, 2 minutes. And in that 2 minutes, they went from paupers to kings and queens. And that was the Make Work Project.
Make some noise one more time. Feeling good? We can keep going, but let's take a quick break. We want to get everybody out of here by 9 o'clock. So the second half, we'll try to keep it super short. Please go to the bar, tip the bartender generously. Washrooms are down this way. And we'll see you back here around 8:30. Sweet. nowhere. If you're with me this evening, let me hear you say, yeah, yeah. So we're gonna switch up the vibe just a little bit. The goal is to get folks out here at a decent hour, 9 o'clock, 9-ish. I have my good friend Ryan Candy with me on the guitar. Make some noise for Ryan. This piece we'll be doing for you is called Country Club Love. It's a real story, true story. It's a song about how my grandparents met. It's written to the styling of a high life tune. High life music is a type of music from West Africa. Many people say it originates from Ghana, but we also have a variation of it in Nigeria. But Ryan is a rock guitarist, so we'll be adding some soft rock interpretations to the tune. Couple things you have to know, couple quick words. Gilly is a scarf, and Chapman is like a nice party drink. It's like a sangria. And with that, we'll get into Country Club Love. You're with me? Let me hear you say Sawa. I imagine her dancing in the arms. Black top, red wrapper, red gilly. Her beads are heavy. Her earrings are gold and heavy. In the Mercedes-Benz, you drop her off at the country club. It is the Enugu Country Club. Osadebe is playing. It's a cold city breeze. She asked for maybe a chapman. You tell her that she needs something stronger. It's going to be a long evening. You brought your dancing shoes, and then you take her hand. And you lead her to the dance floor. And everyone disappears. And you're the only ones that exist in the world right now. Dancing to your favorite song. You were swaying. Dancing to your favorite song. You were dancing. You were dancing to your favorite song. Dancing to your favorite song now. And then you were gone. You have traveled somewhere far, you were in Germany. And you have not seen your dancing partner since Chukky dropped the ball. You have written her letters, and she has not replied. And so much time has passed between you. Maybe you even thought that she left. And you have read every book in German that is to read. And you have studied all the architectural mysteries and histories, and then you return. In your white shirt, white shoes, white pants. Red earth never stains your feet. Blood and murder and all the trees. Everybody looking for the ones they left in the war, and you were searching. You were searching, you were searching, you were searching for your dancing partner. And when you visit her home, her father is not gone. And the mother does not even remember the shape of your face any longer, but still you ask. You ask for your dancing partner. 'Cause wherever she is, you need her. Wherever she is, you need her. Because you is that same. That sings your favorite song. Is that same. That sings your favorite song. And word comes to you that she's a nurse. And her brother is almost gone. Bullets are lodged in his back. Scars in his throat. His voice has been eaten by the war, and she's a traitor now. She is buying and selling to both sides of the war. She did not wait. She could not wait. She found another lover. She found a calling of her life. She mended her broken heart. She stitched it back together. And she's nursing. And there's no dancing in the war. She holds her brother by his arms, slowly nursing him back to life, slowly pulling sound from his throat. But there you are, in your white shirt, white shoes, white pants. Red earth never stained your feet. Blood and murder on the trees, and you were walking. You were walking, you were walking, walking your way back to life. You were walking to the door. And there she is. And there you are. And her brother opens his mouth for the first time in years and says, "Look, sister, your husband is at the door." And you take her hand. And you are the only ones that exist in the world right now. You are dancing. Dancing to your favorite song. You were swinging. Dancing to your favorite song. And you were dancing. You were dancing to your favorite song. Dancing to your favorite song now. And she is in the red dress, red gilly, red pearls. Her pearls are heavy. Her earrings are gold and heavy. And you are in the white shirt, white shoes, white pants. When you ask her for a dance, and she laughs, and she asks you for a Chapman. And you laugh, you said you need something stronger. Because when she starts, she will never let you go again. Da-da-da. Is that country club kind of love? Is that country club kind of love? Is that country club kind of love? Is that country club? There you are, 6 feet in the air. Your daughters are by your side, dancing, swinging, leading you to rest. Your last dance is with these beautiful girls. These pearls, these pearls, these pearls, these pearls, and your son. You would have loved this boy. I see you in his eyes, in his smile, in his walk, in his talk, in his swag, in his dancing. Your wife, she's sitting on top of that great, great life. She's looking at all of us. She takes our hand. We are dancing. dancing to your favorite song. We are swaying, dancing to your favorite song now. You know what kind of love it is? It's that country club kind of love. It's that country club kind of love. Oh, St. John, sing it with me, come on. It's that country club kind of love. Sounds so beautiful, don't you agree? It's that country club kind of love. It's that country club kind of love. It's that country club. Call our response. The past calls into the future. We tell them, is that country club kind of lovely? Is that country club kind of lovely? Thank you very much. Right, Kevin, that sounds so warm. Thank you. It sounds like I keep reading. I appreciate it very much. We'll give some time to clean up the stage. And while we do so, let's get ready to have Joe back on the stage. Can we give a big, big, big St. John's Storytelling Hoop Festival welcome for the one, the only, the incredible Joe Goudie!
Thank you. I wish I'd had that man in my district when I was seeking election. Hands down, defeat everyone. Thank you very much. I know we're running short on time, and I'm not going to take up much time. I told stories that you've heard them tonight and other nights along the way. And I think maybe summing up might be an appropriate thing for me to do, because the folks who organize the Harrys, all of them. One thing I learned in politics is don't start naming people. All of the organizers have done such a tremendous job with this function, and no doubt other things are involved in that. It's been a pleasure. I'm glad you invited me to be a part of your week this week. I don't think if I'm invited back, I'll drive again. I'll probably find an airline ticket somewhere and go easy. But I enjoy talking about the tracking, and I was telling the kids over at the library today about a little exhibition we have set up near where I live, just out on Birch Island, to recognize the role that the trappers played, not only in an economic income and the holding of the land for this country, but I guess the way they did it, the work they put into it, all of that meant so much to them. And then the affidavits for the British Privy Council decision in 1927, it all added up to Labrador becoming, or continuing to be, a part of the first, the colony of Newfoundland, and secondly, the province of Canada. And those men used to thoroughly enjoy going to the country. And I wrote something down, I'll read in a minute, that kind of sums it up. And even though they had to work so hard to prepare their men for that trip into the country, and to care for the kids, and to make the clothes and to cook the meals, the mothers who basically were the solid foundation on which our culture and our people were, built, I guess the best way to put it, and lived. And in the 1930s, there was a young man from the United States who came to Northwest River as a WAMP. Some of you might know what it was. It's not a derogatory term. Please don't misunderstand. It meant work without pay. Young university students, for the most part, coming to work with the Grenfell Mission and perhaps other organizations as well. And they worked for free. Sometimes they even paid to come to work, obviously coming from wealthy families. But this particular person, his name was Elliot Merrick. He, I think, spent at least 2, maybe 3 years in Labrador. And he met the young woman from Australia who became his wife, actually. She was a nurse, and he wrote a book about her called Labrador Nurse. It's a good read, whether you've been a nurse or whether you just enjoy reading. But today, I'm almost finished. Today, I went to the Rooms Museum to pick up 2 medals on behalf of a friend of mine whose father served in the First World War in the Canadian forces, the Newfoundland, I should say, forces. Back then, we were, as I said, still a colony. His name was Murdoch McLean. Ernie McLean asked me to pick up the medals and bring them home. They'd been used here for some time. But in 1933, he spoke to this man, Elliot Merrick, who obviously had asked him the question, well, how did you feel? You lived alone for 4 months, 6 months, had to do everything for yourself, and your wife at home, when you're home, did so much for you that it must have been a completely different experience. And he summed it up. I had to put my glasses on. I didn't want a mistake, so I wrote it down. And he said, yes, boy, it's the best life that ever was. Off in the woods, I've got nobody to bother with. I'm like boss of the world. But he said, after a while, I'll get sick of the little tilts and the smell of the silver pine brush and cooking and skinning fur and walking, as they were on snowshoes every day in the winter. And oh Lord, it'll seem wonderful for me to get home again. And there was one man who wrote a song. I'm not going to try to sing that. We have lots of singers here. But there was one other man. His name was Hiram White, lived at a place called Gullard's White, who trapped because he had to, but he would rather be home. And he wrote a song that he called The Wings of an Eagle. And I think I remember enough of the words so you'll know what the song is about. If I had the wings of an eagle, I'd fly o'er mountains white. And the mule is what he was talking about. I'd fly to my love's bosom, way down in Conrad's part. And I'd rest on my love's bosom. And boys, I'll tell you, I'd forget about the dreary nights I spent on a Cameron animal. Thank you very much.
That's how it works out. That was Joe's last story for the evening. Please let's give him one more round of applause and let's make it happen. We have 2 more tellers. This teller has blessed us with an incredible oration, incredible songs, incredible movement. But this time, she's bringing the thunder. She's bringing the fire. Make some noise for Catherine!
fairly brief. When I went to Cornwall the first time, I took my son with me, and we were told we had to go to the Fisherman's Rest, which is a small community hall in the town of Coverack. It's a fishing community, and it's where the men go and they have a pint, they play pool, and they tell stories. And on this occasion, they were having an exhibit about all the wrecks in the area, including the Bay of Panama, which is the name of the ship that my great-great-grandfather sailed on and that wrecked. And so I had to go. And I was told, when you come, you're going to get to see the sugar bowl that came from the wreck, and this was a big deal. So my son and I went in, and it was crowded. People were drinking tea and eating cake and chatting away. And there was the sugar bowl, and it was just sitting there on a table, and I could pick it up and look at it. And I thought, this is such a grand sugar bowl. I need to tell the story from the point of view of the sugar bowl. So this is Ode to a Silver Sugar Bowl. Wedged in a ledge of rocks I was found. After the ship ran aground, some souls were lost, some were saved. I was carried in the waves, clanging, banging to this spot, once a proud sugar pot. On the table I would stand, full of sugar, oh so grand, now dented, dull, and full of sand. By my handle he took hold, pulled hard, and out I rolled. A man's trophy I became. On my bottom he scratched his name and placed me proudly on his shelf. My mid, where is it hid? I barely recognized myself. Yet etched on my side for all to see the proof of my identity. Fancy letters there proclaim Bay of Panama, my ship's name. She was a beauty on the sea, decked out in her finery, bone china, sparkling glass, gleaming planks, and polished brass. The sailors were a motley crew, jovial when tea was brewed. Come, me lads, for a mug up in a fancy teacup. The captain's lady passed me round. I later heard they both had drowned. More than a century has gone by. I still recall the sobs and sighs. Passing time will never dim memories of brine to my brim. I've witnessed sorrows, joys, and fears, yet I'm surprisingly shiny for my years. And now I'm told I'm to be shown at the Fisherman's Rest in Coverack town. Here I stand for all to see. People come and they gaze at me. Then cake and tea come into view. I would like some sugar too. No china here, but paper cups is not proper for mug-ups. And dear, oh dear, to my dismay, sugar in packets is not the way. But never do they think on me to hold the sweetener for their tea. Clatter, chatter, bustle, and smiles. But who is this from across the miles? A woman scarcely in the door, her hands on my handles where hands held before. She looks me up, she looks me down. She takes my photo from all around. It's the great, great granddaughter of captain and wife. For after death continues life. I link her to her ancestry. Later she pens this ode for me. I am filled once more inside, not with sugar, but with pride. Though dysfunctional I may be, now I am
a celebrity.
That's how the story goes. Ladies and gentlemen, Wright! Incredible. Incredible. That's a beautiful way to sign off. Way to bring the thunder and the fire. The last storyteller we have for this evening, the bringer of the stories of the Empress, the bringer of the dragons. Wonder what story you have to tell us this evening. You have to sign up in a big way. So make some noise one more time, the last time of the evening, for the incredible Suwanshu.
Thank you. Well, so in my introductory bio, it mentioned that I hope you take a little magic home with you. And the reason why I say that is because in my birth culture, we do believe there is magic and a little bit of everything. I've actually quote a hitherto shall be remain unnamed animation company. There's a life, there's a spirit, there's a name for everything. So one of my fondest memories growing up as a child in Taiwan is the different types of temple that you would go to. So the folk religion over in Taiwan says that there are many gods and deities. Not every one of them is in charge of something important. Like you have a god of kitchen, you have a god of stages, you probably have a god of mic and audio visual. And the idea is that items that you use or things that you interact with for long enough, they gain a spirituality and they gain enlightenment, and sometimes they become something a little bit more. So with that in mind, I want to tell you about one of my favorite minor deities. His name is Huye, which means Tiger Lord. So way before he was a brave steed and friend to other gods in the heavens, he was a very brave and loyal tiger. And our story began a long time ago, as these things frequently do. He was a tiger that lived in the hills in the south of the land, far away from civilization, far away from villages. He would patrol his hills every day, looking for small games, wading through streams, going for the occasional dip in the pools, just having fun, enjoying his territory. And one day, a human boy trespasses. So, curious about this strange creature he's never seen before, he stalks the boy from shadow to shadow, bush to bush, until he finally pounces from this boy, pulling himself to his full height, trying to see what kind of reaction he gets out of this boy. The poor boy immediately falls to his knees, hands up over his head, starts praying, please, Mr. Tiger, please don't leave me. I'm just a poor little orphan. I'm just and in between the snots and the tears and everything else that comes bumbling out of this child, he essentially discloses that he is living alone with his grandmother in a hut that's a few hills away from the Tiger's Hills, and that he had been turned out, him and his grandmother, because the plague had taken a swing at their village, and the villagers, because his parents had died, thought that they were also infected and that they were bad omen, so they were chased away to a little hut. Now, you must imagine what this looks like for the tiger. And I should point out at this point in the story that despite his very fervent pleading and animated explanations of why he was here, the tiger, as you and I would know, had no idea what he was saying. Because, tigers don't understand. But what he did understand, though, was that this was the body language of a smaller, weaker animal in supplication. So, posed him no harm. When the boy finally gathered enough of his wits about him to look back up, Tiger was long gone. But in the place where Tiger was were 2 freshly killed pheasants. So the boy picked up these pheasants and bowed in the general direction where he thought the tiger had gone, and went home to tell his grandmother about this extraordinary encounter. And if you thought the story ended here, that would have made perfect sense, but imagine the tiger's irritation when the very next day, the same boy trespassed his territory again. So, once again, he prowls upon the child. But before he had a chance to pounce this time, the boy hugs something on the ground and backs away, bowing very reverently, and observes. And whatever it is, this thing that boy had dropped, it's delicious. What is this smell? So he goes up and does as tigers do. It was a fully plucked, fully cooked, absolutely roasted to perfection pheasant. The smell that he comes to recognize, and as you can imagine, tigers don't frequently have access to rotisseries out in the wild, so he's very pleased with this offering. So began a very interesting friendship between the tiger and the boy, where the tiger would offer a pheasant or fish or other type of small games, and in return, the boy is permitted to forage in the tiger's hills for kindlings and also for food, depending on the season. And as they traveled, the boy would forage and very enthusiastically tell the tiger the tales of the daily activities of him and his grandmother. And the tiger will always walk patiently from bush to bush, shadow to shadow, to see what this little boy is doing. And day by day, slowly but surely, the tiger started to understand the stories that were being told. For tigers are, after all, magnificent, fierce, and very clever creatures. And this continued on for some time, until one day, the boy showed up again with nothing in his hand. Tiger was a little bit disappointed. He was expecting his treat, so he went and nudged the boy, patted him a little bit. Where's my food? Yeah. And instead, the boy backed away very gently, started gesturing, come with me, come with me. And more out of curiosity than anything else, the tiger decided to follow his new friend. So over the hills, across the streams, away they went until they came upon this one cabin hut on the edge of a pond with a little plot of vegetables. And in the doorway was the grandmother that the boy had heard so much about. She was even tinier than the tiger thought she would be, standing in the doorway with the door wide open, gesturing for him to come in. And inside this one little hut, just big enough for a bed and a hearth, laid out on a table, was a full harvest feast of the chickens, the fish, the bamboo shoots, berries, everything that the tiger had provided to the child and allowed him to forage.
Wow.
And they have said that, this is in thank you for being our protector and benefactor. So, after this little wonderful harvest feast, Tiger goes up back to his home in the hills, and so began the next level of their relationship, where instead of letting the boy come to forage and go home, what they would do is that the boy would show up still to the hills to do his daily foraging, and at the end of it, Tiger would carry the boy upon his back, and Tiger and boy would saunter back down the hill to the little hut where the grandmother is always waiting with a delicious meal. The three of them would eat together. It was a very wonderful and idyllic life. And then the war came. So even though they were living in a very secluded area, these things have a way to find people. And Tiger had heard over the hills grandmother's plea. He came bounding down to their rescue just in time to see soldiers with their spears and swords drawn, ready to strike down the grandmother for refusing to give up the boy. And seeing that the tiger had also arrived to his defense, the boy stood. Grandmother, I must serve with honor, and I must leave you. To the tiger, he says, Mr. Tiger, my friend, my brother, you must look after our grandmother. To this, the grandmother says, Mr. Tiger, our friend and grandson, you must look after your brother. It's not very frequently a nana will lose the argument to a grandson. So, off to war the boy and the tiger went. So, I won't tell you what happens next because that's not what this story is about. But I will tell you that in the dark, lonely, frequently frightening nights, the tiger's calm presence and warmth kept the soldiers ready and thinking of home, thinking of the people that they left behind. So when the war was finally over, and the boy had become a young man, and Tiger had gone gray, they finally came home to their little hut on the side of the hills with a grandmother, now even smaller than either of them remembered, still waited for them with a warm embrace and a full table of feast. And luckily, they were able to enjoy each other's company in this wonderful, simple, and love-filled life for a few more years. And when the grandmother's time came, she asked to be buried in those hills that had given her grandson and their tiger brethren so much to be thankful for. So the tiger and the young man carried the grandmother into the hills, and when the burial was over, it became quite plain that the tiger would not be coming down the hills again. To this, the young man lowered his head, touched the forehead skip, and said, "My dear tiger, my benefactor, protector, and brother, thank you for this life." And to this, the tiger growled, rubbed his head against what was once his boy, now his young man, both of them thankful for an extraordinary life lived and shared. So, hearing of his bravery and loyalty, the gods called upon the tiger to ascend and gave him the title Goudie, Tiger Lord. Now, where I grew up, Goudie statues are peppered throughout households. Some of them are about this big, some of them are taller than I am, and depending on where you are and what the reasons are, they're frequently touch and rub for good luck. So similar to, dog statues that you would see, like there's always a portion of it that's like rub raw because people are like, oh, good boy, sort of thing, right? So you see that a lot with Goudie, and I want to tell you a story about him. So he is said to be the protector, particularly of children and the elderly. And when I was little, one of my friends frequently get colds, and there was one time that it turned into pneumonia. So after consulting the doctors coming back home from the emergency, his parents finally said, you know what, maybe we should pray to Goudie for good luck. So that night, even though he was having a fever, my friend said that he had a dream where he was walking in the woods that he's never been to, but he felt perfectly safe because he could tell in the shadows, going from bush to bush, shadow to shadow, was an unseen presence following him, calming, protective, and he knew how he was a good place. And just before he woke up, he heard, Now, the next morning when his fever broke, he told his parents that story. His parents very quickly dismissed it as, oh, there was a thunderstorm last night. You probably just heard the rolling thunder. So grown-ups have this thing where in their times of need, they reach out and pray and hope and they believe in certain things. But as soon as the crisis is over, you suddenly have an explanation for everything, don't you? But us children know better because Goudie takes his job very seriously, and tigers are, after all, magnificent, fierce, and clever creatures. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Thank you so very much. Before we wrap up, a couple quick comments. We have a proverb in my culture. It says, we will be like tomorrow because tomorrow never ends. And I want to give thanks for all the stories that we have received today. I want to give thanks for the stories about the teapot, the stories about the letters, the stories about the flower, about the tiger, about the canoe on the little pot, and about your relatives. I want to give thanks for the pots that fell, for the spider that came down from the sky. I want to give thanks to all of you because what the storyteller needs is the audience, and you have been an excellent audience, so thank you very much. I want to offer that when we gather here next year, when we gather here in one generation, when we gather here in 7 generations, our descendants will celebrate our stories, and our lives will be stories worthy to tell. So thank you so very much for gathering here. Thank you very much to St. John's Storytelling Festival. We have some incredible sponsors who supported us today. I'm sure you come up and tell us who gave us money, and as well as our taxes. So I'll let you do that. Before we wrap up, the bar is still open. Please tip generously. And thank you also very much for being here. I have been your host, Chukky, and I give thanks so much for all of you. Thank you so much and have a lovely night.